Hello, my name is Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL Graduates, and welcome back to another video where there's no deadline this week. The game week is still going on, but we're going to talk a little bit about chip strategy in this video. Let's get straight into it.
So as Ben mentioned, we'll be talking about chip strategies, what teams are doubling when, what teams are blanking when, and potentially what assets you should be looking at to bring into your teams, a couple of weeks early than probably the rest of FPL managers when they realize that these doubles and blanks are on the horizon. So kicking things off, obviously over the next 3 game weeks, there's nothing too much happening, but there is a lot of football in between the Premier League game weeks. There's FA Cup games, there's Champions League games. What's your best advice during those weeks, Ben? Do you think it's safe to say to sort of hold the transfers in game week 22 to game week 24?
Yeah, I think if you can afford to do that, I'd definitely hold your transfers off just while the landscape changes with FPL, because obviously you've got AFCON going on, you've got the Asian Cup, you've got FA Cup fixtures. You'll know a lot more by the sort of end of game week 22 than you will at this point right now. So the recommendation is always in your transfers and your general strategy with those is to just hold them and wait and see with that, and you'll have a lot more information a little bit further along the line. Obviously, there's not many deadlines in January as well, only the 2 this month. So a lot of action in terms of games being played by the Premier League teams that will affect the game weeks going forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And then regarding AFCON as well, we'll know the results of the round of 16 games in between that game week 22 to game week 23 period that you can see. So for the likes of, Mohamed Salah, if he's potentially going to get knocked out early at the group stage or even at the round of 16, we could potentially plan on getting him back into the squads ready for a potential double for Liverpool in game week 25. It's not just Liverpool who will double in that week either. It's obviously been confirmed already that Manchester City and Brentford will double in game week 25. So 2 teams there that are actually quite interesting to look at, Ben. How many City assets have you got at the moment?
So I've currently got the 2 City assets in at the moment, Haaland and Phil Foden. There's a case really there to sort of triple up on City during this period as well. So there's obviously some interesting players in there. A lot of talk about Ivan Toney. Let's see how he sort of gets back into the swing of things as well. Obviously, a couple of tough fixtures to start off and a tough double. But if he does look sort of sharp going into sort of game week 25, you'll probably be looking to have maybe 1 or 2 Brentford players in that period as well, because we know as well that Brentford aren't going to have a blank in that sort of period between now and game week 29.
Yeah, exactly that. Brentford won't blank in game week 26 or game week 29 because they got knocked out of the FA Cup by Wolves the other night. So even potential, other players around that, I'm sure Brian and Mbumo's not too far from coming back to full fitness as well. So yeah, him, Tony, even maybe Sergio Reguilon, who they've signed on loan. He's only 4.4 million. And I can imagine will offer quite high attacking threat given the formations and systems that obviously Brentford play. The only bad thing with Brentford at the minute is that they've only won 1 game in their last 8. I think that is a lot down to the fact that they're missing so many key players that they should hopefully have return during this run. So yeah, game week 26 could be a small blank with the likes of obviously Brentford, sort of the assets we're sort of looking at in that. And then game week 29, that's going to be a much larger blank, and it's all dependent on sort of FA Cup fixtures in that one. So the likes of probably Man United, Man City, Liverpool, those sorts of teams will blank that week. But the likes of Arsenal, who are already out of the competition, they're players to sort of keep your eyes on, keep hold of if you own them already.
So in terms of game week 29, it's going to be the biggest blank, but the likelihood is that there may be sort of below 8 fixtures that are blanks in that game week. So it could be sort of better than first anticipated. It's all really dependent on the draw of the FA Cup as well. Obviously, if Premier League teams get drawn together, that's obviously a better thing than not, because there's obviously more likelihood of Premier League teams dropping out and being knocked out if they're playing each other.
So for me, in terms of any chips being used throughout this period, I'm going to try and avoid using chips like the free hit and the wild card. I'll probably try and dead end my team into game week 29 and have as many players who play in game week 29 as possible, and then look to probably wild card come game week 30, game week 31 out of that. In terms of game week 25, I think that could be a good week to use your bench boost if you still have it. Obviously, there's a lot of players doubling from assets that we already own, such as Manchester City, Liverpool. And then you've also got the likes of Brentford if you want to get some of those guys in. But equally around that, a lot of teams that we probably already have players from, such as Arsenal, Villa, Brighton, those types of teams, they also have really good fixtures as well. So you might be looking at a bench in that week that you might have players that you don't really want to bench. So for me, it will be that game week more than likely that I'll be looking to hit the bench boost. Okay, so looking towards the back end of the season now, something that you probably don't need to think too much about, but it's always good to have an eye on, especially when thinking about sort of chip strategy and when to use them. So in game week 34, it's going to be the highs double and a small blank game week. So going to be sort of interesting. I think that could be a good time to use your free hit chip, depending on which teams are blanking and doubling. Obviously, we don't have any confirmation of that yet, but we definitely know that will happen. And then also game week 37, which obviously not on the list here, but game week 37 will be quite a big double game week. The only issue with playing like a bench boost in that week, which is typically what a lot of managers have done in the past and still could be a good strategy for you this season, is that it's the penultimate game week of the season. And we do see some rotation in teams, don't we, Ben?
Yeah, we do see the rotation of teams sort of towards the end of the season. It's a lot more prevalent in game week 38. Game week 37 is a little bit safer. A lot of game week 38 sort of in the Premier League teams, they might rest a player just to ensure that they get to go to the Euros in the summer, etc. So I think it's a viable strategy. And obviously with the previous game week in 34, where it's the double and blank, that might be a nice way to set up, like you said, for a free hit, because there's going to be a few teams in there that you want to keep in your team for 35, 36, 37. And there's going to be some teams in there that potentially double that you might not have expected to sort of own FPL assets in there from. So yeah, that strategy is definitely seemingly viable for FPL one.
Okay, so that wraps up a really brief sort of introduction into our chip strategy going forward for this sort of back end of our FPL seasons. What's your goal rank, Ben, by the end of the season?
Goal rank to not be as bad as I have been so far. Currently at 700k. Oh, it's probably going to have to be top 100k. We'll go big or go home with me.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, make sure you let us know in the comments as well what chips you've got left. Have you used any so far this season? Let us know in the comments.
And as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL Graduates YouTube channel. And as always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
Later. Have a good game week, everyone.